The drivers and owners, you'll see what I mean when we get there. Now, racing here in the Daytona area started back in 1903 when two car manufacturers had a little handshake bet. They wanted to see whose horseless carriage was the fastest. One of those car makers, the Oldsmobile Car Manufacturing Company, and the other one was the Winton Car Manufacturing Company. They met up on the beaches of Ormond Beach. They'd race all the way down to the Poncelet Lighthouse. For 2 years, they tied each other at 24 miles an hour. Finally, the third year, the Winton Car Manufacturing did a blistering 27 miles an hour, and that became the first ever recorded land speed record. So year after that, they all, from around the world, people would bring their fastest cars. They'd meet up in Ormond Beach and try to break up every year's land speed record. Finally, in 1935, Sir Malcolm Campbell brought his Bluebird 5 to the beach. Got it going about 312 miles an hour. Got going too fast for the sands. They started bouncing all over the place. They realized it was unsafe. So the following year, in 1936, they actually held those land speed records on the salt flats. So that gave the stock car guys an idea. What they did is they moved in 1935. Once they heard they were going to move it, they started racing from the Poncelet Lighthouse 2 miles north up to what's called the North Turn Restaurant. That's still open, a lot of history there. And then they would make the U-turns, come down A1A back towards the lighthouse. That first speedway was 4 miles long. Mr. France was also one of the first drivers to start racing in 1935. But come 1944, he hung up his helmet because the racing on the sands of Daytona became a little too unsafe. Now, there were no rules to follow. The cars were going where they wanted to. Too many people were getting hurt. Plus, the professional drivers weren't being treated like professionals. That's because the rum runners, who all started that racing from Georgia and North Carolina, they still controlled it. They took all the money. Well, Mr. France hung up his helmet. Him and a group of people started meeting right here in Daytona down on A1A at the Streamline Hotel. They came up with a set of rules, and come February of 1948, they voted those rules into law. They called it NASCAR, and that's how NASCAR was born. So not only was Mr. France the builder of the Speedway, but he was also one of the founding fathers of NASCAR itself. So we went back to work, saved up, and put a down payment on this property, started construction in November of 1957. And only 14 short months later, February 22nd, 1959, he actually held the first ever Daytona 500 here. Held it in front of 40,000 screaming fans. Well, once we make our way into the infield, you're going to look across the infield, take a look at the new seating venue here. You're going to see what 101,500 individual outside seats look like. Again, this new seating venue is 7/8 of a mile long, 157 feet in the air, equal to a 15.5-story building. But I'm going to start out with a little excerpt from a gentleman named Jeff Gordon. Jeff Gordon was a 3-time Daytona 500 winner here. He's going to also help me introduce you to the Speedway, tell you a little bit more about Mr. France's dream. And when he's done, we should be making our way through the Turn 1 tunnel for that interview. So here's Jeff.
Hi, this is 3-time Daytona 500 champion Jeff Gordon. I'm pleased to welcome all of you to Daytona International Speedway. Nearly 60 years ago, a small-town auto mechanic named Bill France Sr. dreamed of creating a racetrack that was bigger, faster, and more exciting than any before it. In the ensuing decades, his belief in big dreams transformed Daytona International Speedway into the world's center of racing. Synonymous with names like Petty, Earnhardt, and Allison, Daytona International Speedway has captured the imaginations of the millions who have set foot on these hallowed grounds. Now, Bill France's dream has taken yet another step forward with the reimagination of this American icon, blending the modern amenities that today's sports fans demand with the heritage that race fans expect from Daytona. As 2016 saw the closest finish in the history of the Great American Race, it not only conjured memories of Johnny Beauchamp and Lee Petty's 3-wide photo finish in the inaugural 1959 Daytona 500, but reminded race fans everywhere that a reimagined race experience hadn't changed the core what Bill France envisioned decades ago. Welcome to the World Center of Racing.
Okay, we're entering the turn one tunnel. We're going to be about 35 feet below the racing surface right now. This tunnel is how you get in and out during the racing, and it'll lead us into that 180 acres. Now that 180 acres, just to give you a good idea how big it is, you can bring every professional sporting stadium from the United States here, whether it be baseball, basketball, soccer. Line them up and then side by side, you will or not fill up our infield here. Off to the right-hand side or passenger side is the turns 1 and 2 of our super speedway. Turns 1 and 2 are exactly the same as turns 3 and 4. From the entrance of turn 1 to the exit of turn 2 is 3,200 feet. Well, here comes a car right now. You can wave at him as he goes by, he'll see you. That's one of Roger Penske's Daytona prototype cars. They'll be racing in January here at the 24-hour roll-up. They'll be coming up on your right-hand side. Now that speedway right there where it says Daytona, that's part of what we call the safer barrier up there. That's a hollow steel wall that's held from the concrete wall with straps. In between the two walls, there's styrofoam pyramids. That's what's called the safer barrier. Safer stands for steel and foam energy reduction system. That wall actually moves when a car hits it. It'll compress the styrofoam pyramids and absorb a lot of the energy from an accident. It'll still tear apart a car pretty good at over 205 miles an hour. At least more times now than before, the drivers do get out of the vehicle and walk away, and that's the most important part. He's going to be coming back to the left here in a minute. I was trying to wait for him, but... That's how close you can get to the different racing surfaces here. There are no privacy fences anymore. Anywhere you want to walk, as long as you're not on the track, is pretty close. He's going to be coming around now on the right-hand side again, coming out of that 31-degree banking down the backstretch. Off to the right-hand side is that 29-acre man-made lake I talked about. That's where Mr. France got all the dirt to build the speedway with. He built the high banks, raised the infield so that they could put about 4 different road courses in here. Now, that lake used to be twice the size, but we had to fill some of it back in because of the popularity of the camping. Now, I mentioned that first race, February 22nd, 1959, in front of 40,000 fans. Well, that's what, over there to the left, that's what 101,500 seats look like. Again, it's 7/8 of a mile long, 157 feet in the air. Now, if you take a good look at all those multicolored seats, the reds, the blues, the greens, the yellows, it's actually an old TV trick. What happens is, as you look across those colors right there, certain one of them start jumping up and down because they won't blend together. And on TV, when the camera pans across it, it does the same thing, and it makes it look like people are sitting in every one of those seats on TV.